when I discuss some of the concerns that some of us have, not only on our front porch and on our doorstep, when they do secure the perimeter and they do extra patrols, is because there are health and safety issues going on in our area. Naturally, if there's any concerns, please address it with the police, or at least talk to the ambulance. At least this way, it'll help help, if there's not a first alert armband or some way to contact next to kin or something like that. At least this way, they'll be able to look at what's going on. There's been several concerns. First of all, when we talk about gun safety issues, I'm going to share with you guys some things. Unless we know ahead of time that they're scheduled for an appointment or a visit, if the patient is not attending the appointment, we need somebody to contact an on-call person to just do a wellness check. That's been one of the primary concerns, especially dealing with victims who have been abused or have disability issues. As far as interactions on the porch and interactions daily, the first concern I have is some of the concerns that were addressed by other neighbors, and contacting the police, especially if there's any issues where there's no, like, maybe secondary care, or maybe there's no peer support program initially in proximity, especially if we have ever been dealing with a past abuser, contacting the area shelter, assessing what's going on, getting to the hospital. Naturally, that's going to be the first way to get the help we need. We've been waiting for medical care for a while, so one of the concerns I have immediately is that we need to get to the doctor and get to the hospital and meet with the patient advocate. That way they can assess what's going on. If we have to relocate or move to another location due to some issues at home, or maybe there's ambulatory issues, maybe it's an issue on mobility, we got to contact and follow up with the other doctors, because this way, if we've gotten behind on our appointments, that might be one of the things that might be going on. There might be some things going on at school. I don't know exactly what the issue might be, but overall, it's better to have a working relationship with law enforcement and contact the commander, just in case, because this has been a consistent problem for over 30 years. The same type of problem, the same problem, it'll reappear itself, and unless we press charges or deal with the abuser initially, what ends up happening is that oftentimes the victims end up stranded, abandoned, and abused, and that's one of the other issues. So they need to follow up with the doctor and talk to the social worker initially, and make sure they get into therapy and talk to their therapist. If their therapist is not there, or maybe their therapist moved to another, maybe the therapist left, and we don't know the reasons why. A lot of times with the therapists, they retire. A lot of times with the teachers, they're retired teachers. So if they want to meet up at the hospital, write letters and cards, and that's really basically what they need to do. They just need to stay in touch with some of their group and their counselors and follow up, because if they're, again, missing school or missing appointments, that in itself, that should be their first indicator that some things might be going on at home. I would follow up with other therapists and doctors and just say the same thing. If they're not attending their appointments, have somebody call in a wellness check. That's the best way to assess it. Otherwise, there's no reason to get upset unless they are not, if there's a reason to get upset, but mostly one of the things we've had is kids running away. We've had several issues at staff at Glade Run, and there's been several things that are coming up on a regular basis now. So calling the police to do an extra patrol is not a bad idea. Just making the police officers aware of what's been going on. The whole running away issue is one of the major issues, because we have abusers that have approached us in the past, and that should be your warning sign. There are warning signs everywhere. They got to get their safety plan and exit the program and go to another program, or maybe have somebody evaluate the situation at the hospital. Thank you for listening to our blog post here. God bless. Initially, here's some of my concerns that the problem gets out of hand when I'm looking around me and I'm seeing the issues with the cigarettes and the trash, and some of the issues we might have with handymen or somebody who can evaluate what's going on at the property. I talked to a police officer because there's been several problems here since we moved here with abusers, and primarily we might have to get to we might have to call it, we might have to follow up with a therapist or advocate or a domestic violence issue, because there's been domestic issues here at this property at 340 East Locust Street. So if anyone has any concerns, follow up with the police department, because they're going to be doing additional patrols after what happened today. So these issues are going to have to be settled somewhere else. They're going to have to talk to the attorney, because we're done with these people. They've been dealing with this abuse for at least 30 years. One of the concerns I've had several times is that we've been approached about topics on several occasions, and there are serious safety issues right now. And every time we have fire issues or gas issues or gastric issues, they got to get to the doctor and let the police officers do their job. Because if there's going to be any arresting authority, it's going to be with the police department right now. Every time that abuser approaches us or anytime the abusers, or anytime there's ever been issues with being backed in a corner or any of the other concerns, initially what they need to do is get the kids to the safe place they need to get to the hospital, assess the patient, get over to Children's Hospital, and get those kids to the doctor. That's simply, it's 1, 2, 3. Once the doctor and nurses assess the issue, you know, they just got to follow the doctor's orders. That's initially been some of the problems. As far as like drugs or anything on the hospital property, they have to report it to the charge nurse. That's typically what's been not happening. And as far as other family issues, they got to go over and talk to the other individuals on security issues, because generally speaking, when people are frisking and rubbing themselves up against somebody, there lies the problem. Let the police officers frisk the sex offenders that we have dealt with, because I am not going to deal with those offenders anymore. We've been through too much. We've had night terrors and bathroom issues, and they can go ahead and have the security team deal with those people, because there's no reason for that abuser to be on their property. If they're not on the lease, they have to deal with the judge. It's that simple. Thank you for listening.